How much should you tip a rideshare driver? What's up, folks? Once again, it's your boy Tim with another ride sharing video. I've had this question asked off and on. I've been a rideshare driver, being candid, since 2014, off and on. And I have had a few passengers ask, what is the proper amount that you should tip a driver? Is it like the restaurant industry where it is common to tip 15, 18, or 20% in regards to your tab? Well, to answer this question, there are a few things that I want to let you know that a lot of passengers, in fact, most passengers, are unaware of. That is, there is a significant difference in what you pay as a fare to catch an Uber or ride in a Lyft as opposed to what the driver actually gets. A lot of passengers do not realize this. So if you're looking at, let's say you get a tab for 20 bucks and you're wanting to tip the driver, how much of that should you tip? Well, understand when I say a significant difference in regards to what the driver receives as opposed to what you pay, the ride sharing companies generally keep the lion's share of your fare. In some cases, it can be as high as 80% of what you pay. Most cases, it's greater than 50%. Unfortunately, there is not a lot of transparency in ride sharing. The Ubers and the Lyfts, the companies, control virtually all of the goings on in regards to what's happening. So when you pay your fare, the driver just simply has to trust the metrics of Uber or Lyft. So if you pay $20, it's not uncommon for that driver to get $6, $7, $8 of that. So when you're trying to factor in what should you tip the driver, should it be 20% of the fare? Well, hell, if you tip the driver 20% of the fare, you may actually double what that driver was going to receive, because the ride sharing companies, their take is that significant. Like I stated, a lot of passengers do not realize that. So to answer the question, well, what the hell should we actually tip the drivers? In reality, because the overwhelming majority of passengers do not tip at all. In fact, studies showed that only 1% currently, right now in 2023, only 1% of rideshare passengers regularly tip when riding in an Uber or Lyft. 60%, a whopping 60% of passengers stated they do not tip at all. They never tip. So there are a lot of folks that are not tipping at all. So I'm bringing these numbers to you to make it as simple as possible. Tipping $1 single would make a difference. Now, obviously, if you want to tip more, that would be greatly appreciated by any driver that is getting you from point A to point B. But when you factor in the sheer number of passengers that do not tip at all, even tipping a single dollar, if every passenger tipped a single dollar, that driver in virtually every single market in America, if every passenger only gave $1, that driver would be doing better than they are doing now tip-wise. It is just that low. So when you ask the question, well, what is the proper amount to tip a driver? Literally the answer is anything. Literally the answer is anything, because in most cases, the current situation is nothing. So some might come back. I had an individual in the comments say, if I get a $30 fare, is tipping the driver only $1 going to really make a difference? And as I just stated to you, because most passengers tip $0, yeah, the $1 will make a difference. Any rideshare driver that's out here full time, driving 8 hours a day, they're probably driving 20, 30, 40 passengers around. 40 bucks in tips, $1 single. They got 40 trips and they got $1. That $40 in tips that they would get from each passenger given $1 most likely is more than what they are currently receiving now, with a few rare passengers occasionally giving them a $5. It's just that infrequent that $1 single would actually catch up. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to run this by you for anyone who wanted to know what is the proper tipping etiquette. There is none. When Uber came on the scene, they promoted this as a cashless transaction, which is to the favor of the passenger. The passenger likes the fact that you do not have to carry cash. It's obviously safer and just simply better in modern times to not have to carry cash. But for some strange reason, to get more passengers, to make ride sharing cheaper than the taxi business, Uber started out by telling the passengers the tip is included in the fare. Well, I'm here as a long-term rideshare driver to tell you that is utter nonsense. As I stated, the drivers are only getting anywhere between 20 and maybe 50% of the fare you pay. Just think about how much you paid the last time you were in a ride-sharing vehicle, Uber or Lyft. Now imagine the driver getting 20 to 40 or 50% of that. And you tell me you think there was a tip in that as well? Keep in mind, the lowest trips drivers can get are often under $3. I can show you a host of trips I took last week, paying $2.51 for the trip from point A to point B. It is that low, folks. So make no mistake about it. Erase any thought in your mind that there's somehow a tip that's already included in what you're paying. It is not. And that is a statement that never should have been made by the ride-sharing companies. But just to wrap the video up, what is the proper amount you should tip a rideshare driver? Anything that you're willing to give. It would make that driver's day. Perhaps it might make you even feel better. But at the end of the day, anything you're willing to give would make a big difference to rideshare drivers. So in conclusion to this video, I would like to ask a couple questions to drivers, to veteran drivers that may be watching this video. And those who are actually passengers who often catch an Uber or Lyft, feel free to check the comments so you can kind of get a play of what's going on based on the comments from drivers in there. First question, how much is your current take home if you drive a passenger 5 miles or 10 miles? So drivers, veteran drivers that are out there driving passengers around every day, if you take a passenger from point A to point B and it's a 5-mile trip, how much do you estimate you will receive from the ride-sharing companies, whether it's Uber or Lyft? What about a 10-mile trip? State what you would bring home for other folks who may not be involved in ride sharing to read in the comments. As always, these comments also help a lot of new and prospective drivers thinking of entering ride sharing, but because we're talking about tipping and some passengers also often ask this question, they can check the comments and see your answer as well. Finally, second question for you drivers, veteran drivers out there. Which do you believe would benefit you more financially? If we left the status quo where passengers are tipping the way they do now, or if you were in an environment where every single passenger you had tipped you $1 single. No more passengers tipping you $5 or $10 here or there. Every single passenger only tipped you $1 single. Which scenario do you believe would be more beneficial for you? As always, I'll check the comments. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If this is what you enjoy us talking about here, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell. We speak on all things ride sharing related. Once again, it's Tim. I'll see you in the next video.